Alright team, let's conquer this easement thing. It sounds tricky. Yeah, my neighbor keeps mentioning it about the path through our garden. I think it means he has some right to use it?
That's a great example. An easement is like a special permission to use someone else's land for a specific purpose, even though you don't own it. Think of it as a legal right attached to the property, like an invisible string connecting your land to theirs.
So, it's not just a friendly agreement? It's actually enforceable by law?
Exactly. It runs with the land, meaning whoever owns your neighbor's property in the future is also bound by it. It doesn't matter who the person is, the land itself has that easement attached to it.
Okay, but what kind of permissions are we talking about? Is it just for paths?
Good question. There are different types of easements. Let's look at a couple. Scenario 1. The driveway dilemma. Imagine your house is at the back of a plot, and the only way to reach the road is through a driveway on your neighbor's land. This is a classic right-of-way easement. You have the right to pass over your neighbor's land to access your own property. Remember the case of Dr. Cheng Wong and Mr. Oei in Singapore? Dr. Cheng Wong bought a house accessible only through Mr. Oei's driveway. He blocked it, but the court ruled she had an implied easement because access was crucial. Just like in our scenario. Scenario 2. Sunshine showdown. You have a beautiful sunroom that gets lots of light, but your neighbor wants to build a high extension that would block it. This is where a right-of-light easement comes in. It prevents your neighbor from constructing anything that obstructs your access to light. It's a restrictive covenant because it restricts what they can do on their own land for your benefit.
So, those are examples of existing easements. How do they even get created in the first place? Maybe it's in the deeds of the property when you buy it?
You're right. Express grant or reservation is one way. The previous owner might have specifically granted or retained that easement in the deeds. But there are other ways too. Act of Parliament. Sometimes, the government can create easements for things like utility lines passing through properties. Think of all the pipes and cables needed in a big apartment building. Necessity. If your property is completely landlocked with no other access, a court might grant an easement out of necessity. Prescription. If someone has been using your land openly and continuously for a long time like a path, they could eventually claim an easement by prescription. It's like squatters' rights but for easements.
Wow, there are more ways than I thought. But what if we want to get rid of an easement? Can we just say no more driveway access? That sounds messy. Probably better to have a lawyer involved.
Absolutely. Terminating an easement isn't always simple. Here are some possibilities. Statute. If it hasn't been used for over 12 years, the land authority might cancel it after notifying the dominant owner. Express release. Both parties can formally agree to end the easement through a legal document. Implied release. If the dominant owner stops using the easement for a long time, and their actions show they don't intend to use it anymore, it could be considered abandoned. Unification of ownership. If both properties end up belonging to the same person, the easement disappears as you can't have an easement on your own land.
This has been so helpful. I think we've cracked the easement code. Yeah, now I can finally have that chat with my neighbor knowing what I'm talking about.
And remember, if you're ever unsure, it's always best to consult with a legal professional.